Welcome back to my last card in my coolest card series. I hope you've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed doing it for you guys. This is a first for me, so I've enjoyed all your feedback and comments. I really appreciate them. I left my favorite card for last. This is actually the first one I created, but it ended up being my favorite, so I left it for the last time. We will get started. So for this card, I use the 6x6 crepe paper pad. This is a really cute winter pad. A lot of fun designs in there, so I used a couple patterns from there. I used some of the Studio Calico wood snowflakes. I'm obsessed with snowflakes, so I'll take them any way they come. I also used Lawn Fawn's Making Frosty Friends set and the lawn cuts, and then the Milo's ABCs. I had these stamps in my collection for a while now. They're from Impress Rubber Stamps. I actually purchased them in person when I was in Seattle. I haven't used them a ton, so I'm happy to put some ink to them and use those. We're using a couple distress ink pads, antique linen, and walnut stain. I'm using the VersaFine, but in vintage sepia. I'm using some liquid applique. This is an old school supply, but I use it a lot this time of year. My ink blending tool, and then we're also going to be embossing again. So I'm using my white embossing powder and my Versamark. All right, let's get started. So to get started, we're going to start by embossing the snowflakes on my craft cardstock. I have 3 different sizes that we're going to use. Just make sure that they're inked up really well. I like to put the powder on in between so I can kind of see where else I need to stamp. See how well these stamps really stamp. They're really picking up the powder really nicely. Go ahead and heat emboss these. I love the white embossed on the craft. It's so pretty. So we're going to set that aside. And now we're going to stamp our snowmen. Going to do that in brown. There is a long cup for this, but I usually just end up cutting it myself. We added a little bit of watercolor pencils to his nose. I already pre-cut his earmuffs, scarf out of the pattern paper, and his little arms, which I'm bound to lose. But what we're going to do now is using the vintage antique linen, I'm going to ink the edges of these just to dirty it. See, my ink pad is well loved. Going around the snowman to give it a more vintage feel. Little hands. Let's get the white out of them and the scarf. All right. So I'm actually going to start to assemble these pieces because I don't want to lose them. So, okay. So first we're going to assemble then to put the sparkly ribbon on. I'm actually going to use the skinny score tape. Actually put it down on the paper first. We're going to go ahead and foam tape the snowman on. This will use tape runner. And then to stick the earmuffs on, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of the liquid applique. You can either let this stay and puff up on its own, but I want it to be a bit more dramatic, so I'm going to heat it. And I'll stop and I'm going to let those cool off. So now that I have that done, I'm actually going to work on doing my letter fetty, which is different than my word fetty, only that it's just a little bit different in the fact that we're cutting in between each letter, and then I'm actually going to ink the edges of each letter. So it's a little bit more labor intensive, but it looks really nice when it's complete. So in order to do that, I have some craft cardstock here, and I'm going to use the Milo's ABCs. And I'm going to use my VersaFine. I'm just going to start to set up some of the letters that I need. What's great about the Milo's ABCs is that there's a lot of extras of everything. I definitely recommend spacing them out so that they're not right close to each other. You can see the way I'm setting it up is backwards, but that's not going to matter when I go to stamp them. You just want them somewhat lined up so that it will make your life easier when you go to trim them. And there's only 2 W's, but that's okay. I can always stamp it again. So I'm going to ink that up. Just love how these stamp out. It's so nice. Set those aside. So now what we're going to do is cut them into letter fetty. As I do it, I want to keep track of them in somewhat of an order for assembly. Okay, so now we're actually going to use a walnut stain, and we're going to ink the edges of each of these little letters, which sounds like a lot, but once you get doing it, it goes by quick. All right, so now that that's all set, we're actually going to adhere them to the card. The bottom heart I actually have pop taped, and then the other ones we're just going to use our adhesive. This just helps make it pop too off the background. Great. And now we're just going to do some finishing touches, some of the wood veneer and sequins. And there you go. The final, oh, and then I'm actually going to add a little bit of the vintage photo. Well, everyone, this is it. My last card in my Coolest Card series. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your comments and feedback. And be sure to go to shirkus.com and leave a comment to win a prize. Have a great day.